overall, I mean, I just want to talk about what I think are the issues with the 49ers before you get into how much you love Mahomes. So, I would just say with the Niners, I mean, special teams again. It's just every week. I mean, I guess that's what happens when you're in your third kicker in 3 weeks. You're gonna. He didn't miss any field goals, but he missed an extra point. Still horrendous on punt coverage. Any sort of kick coverage is just horrendous for this team right now and needs to be cleaned up. I don't know what or why they can't get this figured out. I mean, you
Yeah, I know
spend
Miko had that one long punt return too.
yeah, and you spend a fourth round pick on a punter. You spend a third-round pick on a kicker. You spend decent money in free agency acquiring George Odom, who's a really good special teamer, and you're still having issues like this. I really don't know how they fix it, to be honest. So you could maybe talk about that. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about the Niners special teams? Because at the end of the day, like this is something that could come back and bite them, just like it did, for example, for the Packers in 2021, where they were known to have a terrible special teams, and in the end, that came back to bite them on a blocked punt that sent the Niners to the NFC Championship.
I mean, no, special teams it's like the one aspect of the game that you definitely need to have down, right? Some of the best teams around the league have really good special teams, right? Or they have teams that are really good on special teams. They don't make too many mistakes. Obviously, their mistakes on special teams are very, very low, right? It seems for the Niners, they're making like the worst mistakes possible, right? Blocked punts, letting kickoff returns go for touchdowns, right? Stuff like that. And they themselves haven't been able to make too many good things for themselves off special teams, right? I mean, the only thing that stands out to me is like how they had that blocked field goal that they scored a touchdown on, but they ended up losing that game. I mean, they definitely need to fix that up because special teams is regarded as like an easier aspect of the game to fix up versus like an offense or like a defense, right? That's something they definitely need to get down. As for the Chiefs, now that I think about it, like maybe going for it on 4th and 1, knowing that the Niners have special teams. I mean, I guess I like that a little bit more. I originally didn't like it as much originally because it was just so early in the game. You're giving the Niners the ball and like on your side of the field, right? I mean,
I gotta respect that. Honestly, they have one of the better special teams coordinators in the NFL, and he must have seen something that he liked enough to go for it. And if there's one team this year to go for it against, it's the Niners. So you know what? I like the aggressiveness because if you have conviction, go for it. And I like that. It ended up not working. That was bad on that was tough for them. But outside of special teams, I mean, I will say this was a tough one for the Niners, losing Debo pregame. Okay, losing Ayuk in the second quarter. Not having Juwan Jennings available for this game.
Ricky Parcells' first game, so obviously that can be 100%.
Yeah, Ricky Pearsall's first game, and not even Ricky Pearsall's first game. It's like this is his first time really doing anything at all. I mean, he had OTAs, maybe played in like 3 practices in training camp because he was already dealing with an injury in his left shoulder. So he maybe had like 3 practices in training camp, was wearing a non-contact jersey. Right after training camp, got shot, didn't play at all in the preseason, didn't play at all in the regular season until now. So really this is like one of the first balls that he's ever catching for the 49ers, practice or game or anything. And then we have Ronnie Bell, who maybe I hit on Ronnie Bell too much, but I was just in the game. I was like, can we just get this guy off the field, man? Like why? I definitely blamed him for that pick, which turns out wasn't really his fault. And then Chris Conley and Jacob Cowing, who showed a nice little flash there with that one deep pass. Just something on my mind. I mean, I guess this is just a lot of biasness, but I just wanted to think about a lot of the people talking, a lot of the discourse about Brock Purdy today is very negative, and just, you know, that's just how it is. If you play well, people talk about you good. If you play bad, people talk about you bad, and it's always going to be more extreme than what it really is. And at the end of the day, he played one of the best defenses in the NFL and had a bad game. He was clearly off. There was certain things about his game that I don't know if you could say the defense really affected him. He was just off. Obviously, the defense made good plays on him, but I mean, regardless, even if the defense didn't make good plays, like he was not throwing the ball to players in stride. He was making the players have to adjust to the ball as it was coming to them. He wasn't as accurate as usual, and little things like that. I think overall he was off about during this game. So
why is it always against bad team? I mean, good defenses and against like bad and like to mid-tier defenses, he's like a top 5. But when it comes to him playing against like good defenses, he's like not even a top 15 guy. This is not even this game. Like going back to last year when he played the Ravens, the turnovers or the picks he threw were very high. Like, right, he threw 4 picks last year, 3 picks this year, and these are against like solid defenses.
I mean, that's just 2 games. I mean, you're probably not going to have a terrible game against a bad defense, right? I feel like you're probably not going to have a terrible game against a bad defense, no matter how bad you are. You could. It's just probably so smooth sailing that it's just not really going to happen against a bad defense because the rest of your offense is probably going to be able to do whatever it wants to do. And yeah, I mean, I guess there hasn't been a lot of games that Brock Purdy has played against a really good defense, but I mean, we could get back to that. What I just wanted to say was something that stood out to me is if we compare compared Mahomes and Brock Purdy, I was going through what was around them yesterday and how difficult was their task. So I want to ask you, who had the better weapons yesterday?
Without a doubt, Purdy.
Okay, and why?
Purdy has Jordan Mason. He went into the game with Brandon Ayuk. Look who Mahomes went into the game with. He went into the game with Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt's slow as shit. Like, I know that was never part of his game. Him being fast was never a part of the game, but he's literally like 10 times slower than he was when he was with the Chiefs the first time around.
Okay, hold on. Let me get more specific. Sorry to cut you off. Let me get more specific. Let's go position. Who had the better wide receivers? So what you're telling me, once Ayuk was out of the game, Purdy had the better receivers.
We say going into the game, no?
No, let's just like for the whole entire game. And so that means you have to take into account Ayuk played one quarter.
At that point, it's probably about even when Brandon Ayuk went out, because Juju Smith-Schuster went out.
Like, we're talking about Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, I see people talking about Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm like, bro, we're talking about Juju Smith-Schuster.
He was gonna be the wide receiver one, right?
I'm saying the drop off from Juju Smith-Schuster to the next guy is not the drop off from Ayuk to Ricky Pearsall.
Oh wait, no, definitely. But like, it's so hard when you go into a game with someone that's gonna probably be a wide receiver one, and then all of a sudden he's not in the game, right? Same thing for the 49ers. Same thing for the 49ers.
Ayuk and Debo. The main reason why I would say that.
No, but at the same time, they had Travis Kelce was still playing and George Kittle was still playing.
I agreed.
Right?
Okay, so the one of the main reasons why I think it was harder on Purdy, and I guess it's hard on both of them. So let me not get that mixed up. But I think it's harder on Purdy because, at least for the most part, Mahomes was throwing to people that he's thrown to all of training camp and all year, and in many years in the past with Mecole Hardman.
But how much though? How much though?
Xavier Worthy played all training camp and all year. Mecole Hardman has played with Mahomes for more than 1 year now. Brock Purdy
you're telling me over the
once Ayuk and Debo were out, he was throwing to Ricky Pearsall, never thrown to him before. Ricky Pearsall played the most snaps out of any 49ers wide receiver. He was throwing to Jacob Cowing, rookie who's never been on the field, who both had their first NFL catches yesterday. And then he was throwing to Ronnie Bell and Chris Conley.
Who was Mahomes throwing to for the majority of this offseason? Rasheed Rice and Hollywood Brown. Neither one were in this game. Both are on IR right now.
Okay, that's fair. But was Hollywood Brown healthy in the offseason?
Yeah, he was healthy. They played him the last offseason game, and he dislocated his shoulder.
Agreed. I will say top two receivers for the Niners ended up being Ricky. I mean, we're nitpicking here, but at the end of the day, I'm saying at least he had all year with Scott. At least he had all year with.
Please do not say Sky Moore.
No, I didn't mean to say Sky Moore.
Sky Moore is not working for them.
But chill. I didn't mean to say Sky Moore. At least he had all year with Xavier Worthy, and he had this year and all year with in prior experience with Mecole Hardman. I'm just saying the Niners' two main receivers yesterday were people that made their first catches in the NFL after Ayuk went down. So it was just a lot. I mean, you could see there was a lot of times where I think inexperience showed up in terms of Brock Purdy throwing to those two guys. Regardless, I mean, it's close, obviously, so whatever. But all I'm saying is that aspect was tough on Purdy. Running game wise, I mean, I think they both had a similar running game. Tight ends, they're both really good tight ends in the receiving game. You could probably call them about equal receiving game in the receiving game at this point in their careers. And then who was playing the better defense? I mean, it's not even close at this point right now in the season. That Purdy was playing against the tougher defense, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Mahomes had two tackles that were going against Nick Bosa. His left tackle and his right tackle. Arguably, like the worst part of the offense. I mean, the worst part of the O-line.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, but they're so bad that Leonard Floyd was doing something in that game. Yeah, they also had the best interior offensive line in the NFL.
Yeah. I will give them that.
As an offensive line overall, I would say the Chiefs' offensive line is definitely better than the 49ers' offensive line. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, with the Niners, it's like one, maybe two guys, and like one really good guy. But with the Chiefs, their interior three is like up there with like the best in the league.
And it's I mean, Trent Williams. I don't know if Trent Williams is playing all that well.
Yeah. Again, another. He wasn't there all of training camp, so.
Who has the better head coach? Who has the better coach?
Yeah, I don't even think there's a question now.
Right, so I just wanted to put a little bit of context behind Purdy. And at the end of the day, like, he had a bad game. He missed throws he should have hit. He threw a couple interceptions that he shouldn't have thrown, and I would say he had a bad game. But I also do want to just point out that for all the people talking about Mahomes and saying that they're making it work, and we're talking about Patrick Mahomes, a guy with Andy Reid at head coach and the greatest quarterback of all time, damn near. And we're talking about a guy who has thrown 6 touchdowns and 8 interceptions on the year.
Those 8 interceptions are so BS. Off the top of my head, like 3 of them don't even count.
I'm saying it to say that, like, if we're going to talk about Mahomes having these types of stats and we're going to talk about Purdy now, his stats, if Mahomes is doing what he's doing with his circumstances, I mean, Purdy was in basically the same exact circumstances as Mahomes yesterday. So I'm not with going off of his stats and
it's not even stats. Like, if you look at the game, like, Purdy had a chance to go out and get the lead in that game. He doesn't get it, right? Mahomes has a chance to go out in there and ice the game, and he does it. It's just what Mahomes does, right? He's a good player. He'll make the plays. And for Purdy, it just seems like he doesn't make the plays if he doesn't have the weapons. I mean, like Patrick Mahomes, you can say you didn't like the play. Like he got a 33-yard rush where he got out of the way of Fred Warner, and I have no idea what the other guy was doing, but being able to get 33 yards just like that.
Yeah, that was inexcusable by Fred Warner. Like that cannot happen. You could not ever let that happen. That was bad. That was really bad by Fred Warner. I have no idea what D Winters was doing on the sideline there. But
because I mean, at that point, I feel like Mahomes made it so obvious that he was gonna try staying in bounds because just the way like he was trying to stop himself. It's probably a lot harder to guess that when you're going like full speed.
Yeah, I mean, I think he got pushed a little bit by somebody else out of bounds. I don't know exactly really what happened.
I think it was Kareem over there. It might have been him.
In the end, I mean.
But I mean, just going back to like Mahomes versus Purdy in this game. Mahomes' 2 picks were not as bad as Purdy's 3 picks, right? Mahomes' 2 picks were his guy slipped, the defensive tackle put his hand up and he intercepted. It was a good play for him. Purdy's 2 were, I mean, all 3 of them were like, just terrible throws, right? The one to Justin Reed, right? Probably should have never thrown that. The one that he threw when they were in the red zone issues again for them. Should have never happened. Even if his arm got hit a little bit, doesn't matter. The guy was literally in double coverage, so it would have probably been picked either way. I mean, the one where he's throwing Ronnie Bell over there, just no idea. Ronnie Bell he seemed like he was wide open, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first one, the one in the red zone, I'm not as upset about. It was just kind of like he had basically a free rusher there, and he got hit. Like you don't want to, like it feels like that's happening too much, so you want to figure that out. You want to move out the way or something like that. But I don't really hate that one. But the other 2 definitely were pretty bad. The one that Justin Reed picked off. I mean, you can't really throw that. You got to know where Justin Reed is. You got to know where the safety is there before you throw that. And then the one to Ronnie Bell, he kind of just improvised, went rogue, and didn't trust Ronnie Bell to win his route. And that's what happens. That's kind of, I guess, what happens when you're playing with a guy that doesn't play very often for you. So yeah, I mean, I will say though, at the end of the day, Purdy I would say he had one of his worst games of his career against a really good defense. And I guess it's gonna happen. And like you said, like it did come again at a time where they were playing against a really good team, which sucks. But I mean, we saw what he did last year in the Super Bowl on the biggest stage against the Chiefs, and I'm not saying he was great, but he was obviously much better than he was today. So he can play at a pretty solid level against a good team.
He had the whole Avengers on his side that time. Every single one of the Avengers.
That's fair. I mean, I get he had the Avengers, but like you said, like let's look at what Purdy is actually doing. What is Purdy actually doing on the field? And just because you have a certain set of players on your team doesn't mean that you're not also making plays. Like both of them can be true. Like there's certain situations where just because you have a better player, it doesn't mean that a certain play wouldn't have happened if you didn't have that player. And he has had like good games against good teams where he kind of put the team on his shoulder, like for on his back against the Packers and the Lions in that playoff run.
Last year, both the Packers and the Lions had an arguably below or an average defense.
The Packers had a solid defense, I would say.
No, I think all of last year they had defensive issues.
I think my feeling was that towards the end of the year, that's
why they got rid of their defensive coordinator and brought in a new one.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm just talking about the players. But
no, they definitely have the players there.
I think Purdy should be able to bounce back. Like he's played at a pretty solid level this whole year so far. I feel like he's been one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. It's going to be tough now without IU for the rest of the year. Hopefully we get Ricky Pearsall to step up or Jacob Cowing, and then you get into the issues on defense. The defense also, I feel like one of the issues with the Niners is that their players have kind of gotten old and they've lost depth. Defensive line, they used to have players like Samson Ebukam, they used to have Charles Omenihu, they used to have Arden Key, they used to have a bunch of really solid players that once they left, slowly their defensive line deteriorated. They used to have Azeez Al-Shaair, depth at linebacker. They used to have better safety play. Jair Brown just hasn't been very good for the 49ers this year. Even the old Tashawn Gibson was better. Jimmy Ward was obviously much better. This is kind of just what happens to a team once you get older and you don't draft super well. Hopefully this past draft can make up for it because a lot of players from this past draft have been playing. Mustafa, Green, Garendo, Pearsall, Cowing, Pooney. Probably the best one of them, Pooney. I feel like it's just another week at the end of the day, another week where the Niners just didn't play a very good game all around. Special teams, defense, offense. Didn't play a very good game, and hopefully they can put it together here. That's it. Nothing much more to say than that.
I think I probably said it enough. This is probably the hardest stretch of their schedule right now. Aside from the Cowboys, right? They're going to play the Bills, the Packers, I think that the Bucks are in there. I guess the Bucks aren't as good anymore with both of the receivers going down. But I'd still say it's pretty scary for the Niners, sitting at 3-4 right now. I guess the only thing that might go well for them is they have a bye. Maybe by then Christian McCaffrey can come back. It seems like a steep hill that they're gonna have to climb. I feel like there's a decent amount of good teams in the NFC this year compared to previous years.
That is true. Because I was gonna say the Niners have definitely done this before in 2021 and 2022, correct? Where in 2022 they were 3-4 after losing to the Chiefs, and then they got Christian McCaffrey, and they ended up going to the NFC Championship. 2021 they were, I think, 3-5, and I think they ended up winning 10 games straight.
I mean, they have the head coach and the potential to do it. It's just you just can't keep having games like this. I feel like you went out, lost to the Cardinals, you went out, lost to the Rams, teams that you're gonna play again this year. It just seems like it's gonna be harder this year.
Yeah,
and if I recall correctly, they won that 10-game winning streak and they were starting to get healthier. Right now, it just doesn't seem too good, especially with that Brandon Ayuk going out. Like, who's gonna fill in his shoes? I know he wasn't playing great, but there's definitely still a lot of coverage that was going towards Brandon Ayuk and getting him to not be as big of a threat.
Yeah, that's honestly pretty scary because I think he was playing a lot better than people said he was. And I think he was actually playing a pretty good football these last 3-4 weeks. So that's gonna be hard to replace because I've said it before. I don't know how good Debo is anymore. Very frank. So hopefully Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing and Juwan Jennings could step up. Otherwise, it's gonna be tough sledding for the offense.